I really don't want to go on this drive. I kept telling myself that over and over again. But it's summer break and my lease went up, so there was no place for me to stay. And having no job and barely scraping by each month with whatever money my parents could send me meant that there was no choice but to drive back home for the summer. Don't get me wrong, I love my family and appreciate everything that they do for me. It's just the drive from Michigan to Texas is very tasking. But all good things come at a price, I suppose. So after my last final, I went home and packed my car with all my belongings. I didn't own much, so this process was fairly easy. After making this trip so many times, I learned to pack light. After closing my trunk and making sure nothing valuable was left behind, like my wallet, phone, or laptop, I went inside my apartment, scanned my room one last time, and said goodbye to my roommates. It was very quick because they were packing as well, so the goodbyes were painless. I got inside my car, closed the door, and put on the playlist I made specifically for this trip and set course to Texas. I called my parents and told them that I was on my way. They were happy to hear from me, and we made sure that we were sharing our locations through our phones. I couldn't lie to myself. I actually miss my family in small town in Texas. I didn't see my family at all during the spring semester, so it'd be a nice change of pace to be back home. After a few hours of driving, I was making impeccable timing. I drove through Illinois and decided to get a hotel in Missouri. It's a good halfway point, and I needed a break from being crammed inside my car all day. I checked into my hotel and passed out instantly. The following day, I woke up and realized that I overslept. I checked my alarms and saw that I put them down for PM instead of AM. Damn it, I said out loud. I called my parents and told them about the mishap and to expect me to be back home late. They told me to be careful while driving and that they couldn't wait to see me. As the call ended, I smiled because it occurred to me that I do have great parents. I got myself some lunch before I started my drive back home. As I made my way into Texas, the roads were covered in a blanket of darkness. I don't mind driving at night. In fact, it calms me, especially when I drive through Texas. The roads are essentially empty at night because the state is so massive, even on certain sections of the highways. After driving for a while, my eyes began to get heavy. That's when I opened up one of the energy drinks that I bought at a gas station and turned up my music. I just had a few more hours till I got home. I continued to stare at the road and entered into a highway hypnosis. As my car's lights illuminated the road, it accentuated how dark it really was. It created a menacing atmosphere. This made me think about what horrors lurked in the darkness. That's when my trance was broken, and I noticed something peculiar on the side of the road. An extremely pale woman wearing a tattered black dress, walking slowly by herself. She was barefoot, and her hair was just as black as the dress she was wearing. It was long and wiry, and it covered her face. Her skin was so pale that it seemed to glow in the night. At first glance, she scared the shit out of me. It was like a scene out of a horror movie. As I passed and peered in my rearview mirror to get a better glimpse of her, the woman disappeared in the distance as my car continued to drive down the road. So many questions crossed my mind. Like, where was she going? Why was she walking in the dark by herself? All these questions began to race through my head. I felt bad for not stopping and asking if she at least needed help. No, I thought. That's how people end up dead. I convinced myself that I did the right thing by driving past her. For whatever reason that woman was walking this late at night was her problem, and I didn't want to get involved. After driving for a while, another thought popped into my head. Maybe I was just seeing things. It was late and I was really tired. After having that thought, that's when I saw her again. She was still walking slowly. My heart began to race and sweat began to drip from my forehead. How the hell did she get ahead of me? As I drove past her again, I looked in my rearview mirror and saw her disappear in the darkness another time. I began to panic. This is just not in my head. I stomped my foot on the gas pedal and dialed 911. I was screaming and cursing as the phone began to dial through the Bluetooth of my car. After hearing a few rings through my car's speakers, someone answered the phone, but there was no response. I yelled, "Hello? Is there anyone there? Hello, I'm being followed and I need help." Still no response. Damn it, why won't you answer me? That's when the heavy breathing could be heard through the speakers of my car. The breathing only got louder and louder and transitioned to a groan the longer I was on the phone. I couldn't take it anymore. I entered the car and threw my phone down in the passenger seat. I continued to speed, hoping there'd be another car on the road or a cop would stop me. As these thoughts crossed my mind in a panic, I looked in my rearview mirror and saw the woman standing in the middle of the road. Fuck! How could she be standing there? I was going well above 100 miles per hour. As I looked through my rearview mirror, the pale woman in the tattered black dress was walking and somehow keeping up with the car. As the car got further away from her, she could take one step and be closer again, until gradually she was in a dead sprint, gaining up to my car. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I screamed and punched the rearview mirror and shattered all the glass. I then ripped the rearview mirror and threw it behind me. I was still driving hysterically, but then I heard a thud in the backseat of my car. I didn't have to look back to know that she was in the car with me. I could hear her breathing and groaning again. My body was frozen in fear, and I was trying my best to keep my attention on the road. My heart felt like it could burst at any moment. Sweat was dripping from the steering wheel as I clenched it with all my might. This isn't real. This isn't real. There's no one there. That's when I felt her breath against the nape of my neck. Her breath was foul, and the smell of rot filled inside the car. I began to hyperventilate. My whole body tensed up. Her groans got louder. Her arms extended past my side slowly. They were long and almost reached the steering wheel. The woman let out another loud groan and then closed her arms around my chest. I woke up in a panic. I tried to move, but pain shot throughout my entire body. My parents were in the room with me, along with some nurses. My mother was in tears as they told me what happened. Apparently, my car flipped over 8 times, and my car was wrecked in the middle of the road. I was found unconscious and barely breathing. I had 3 cracked ribs, severe head trauma, my left leg was completely shattered, and both my wrists were broken. The nurse informed me that 2 days had passed since the wreck. I just laid there in silence as my mother continued to cry. I couldn't speak anyway because of the pain. All I could think about was the pale woman in the black dress. How her image will forever haunt me. Everything about her will torture me. Her smell, her sounds, her guise, her touch, everything. Every time I close my eyes, she will be there in the darkness, waiting.